Hey guys, welcome to another recap of The Boys Season 3, Episode 4. Uh, what a wild season we are dealing with. And you know what? Who better to hang out and talk about it with me than the M to my Burr, Maxwell Haddad, and our good friend, Robert Adams. What up, guys?
Hello,
Hello.
Burr.
Hey,
Oh, so
how are
we
we
are
doing?
we are the boys of this recap show.
I'm the tomboy in this recap show?
There's a lady in the boys,
Yeah.
Oh, true. Starlight, she's pretty dope.
and Kamiko.
Kamiko is pretty dope. You know
You
what?
could be our
Both of them.
Kamiko.
I listen.
If that's your
I
way of
will.
telling her to talk less, that's rude.
Wait,
Well,
isn't
but
she
to be
called
fair,
like talk
the,
less, smile
isn't she
more.
called the female?
she did kill people with dildos. So I mean, I'll take it. I'll take it. So I mean, let's get right to it. Uh, like spoilers abound, guys. You guys should know how this goes. We're gonna talk spoilers. I mean, we might do a quick overview at the beginning, but then once we get into it, you know what to do. Leave. Bye. Go watch the episode. Come back. Watch this. Done. We did it. Uh, so yeah, let's talk about episode 4. Maxwell, take it.
Yeah, so episode 4 of season 3 of The Boys is called Glorious 5-Year Plan. And this is directed by Julian Holmes and written by Meredith Glynn. Right off the bat, we sort of start, interestingly, not so much in the aftermath of the third episode, but a little bit with the aftermath of the second episode where Homelander gives his speech, right? He gives his sort of unhinged speech at his birthday party, and he's back on the Cameron Coleman show. I like that Cameron Coleman has sort of become the go-to morning talk show news station that Homelander goes on to peddle his lies. And he goes
So
on
Tucker
this
Carlson.
yeah
Mhm.
Homelander goes on this rant against the lies of the mainstream media. And stop me if you've heard this one before, but as we are sort of alluding to in our previous recap, the show is only doubling down on drawing allusions between Homelander and our former president. And the political satire and the way that this show is taking real world events that we've all suffered through. Well, I've suffered through it. Maybe other people liked it. I can't speak for
Oh, I
everybody.
suffered.
Suffered through it, and flipping it back onto the audience through the lens of superheroes.
It's wild. Literally, I they're geniuses. They're geniuses for being able to tell such a real story at a time when, we just got past all of that craziness, but we still see it very prevalently in our nation, the after effects of that. Because basically, and I'm going to say something really mean, when you pick up a rock and the roaches scatter, the roaches don't die immediately unless you kill them. So, yeah. Yay, metaphors. Right, metaphors. But yeah, it was wild. We got right into it. It opened with Homelander being Homelander, and then we flipped to Butcher meeting with little Nina or Nina, like I don't know, yeah. Because we're going to Russia, and we're gonna
Good timing
go.
on this.
Yeah, it's perfect. We're going to Russia, and we're gonna go, you know, try to see what we can discover about the disappearance of Soldier Boy and what happened to him and different other things. And remember, there's a super weapon out there, right? So
BCL Red.
yeah, keep talking.
So little Nina did have one of my favorite lines in the episode. I like to make notes of all my favorite lines and make me laugh. And she said, his cassoulet made me come, which is just a very funny visual.
It was great. It was so great.
I had a hard time trying to figure out what exactly they were negotiating for, but
which is what brought us to the aforementioned dildo fight, which
It's so great.
this show continues to find new ways to top itself in terms of violence, but also like the creativity and particularities of the violence. Like, this guy has a cabinet of contraband and it's dildos themed after various members of the Seven, and Kimiko uses these dildos as weapons to murder people, and it's a scene.
I would like to state that, and I didn't mention it last time, but I am super in love with Karen Fukuhara. When she pops out in that silver dress, I was like, yowzers. And then I was like, this is actually going to be interesting. What is she doing with this? And I was not disappointed. Loved every second of it. But yeah,
she's fantastic. She has great screen presence and is definitely super attractive. There's a couple of interesting things going on in this episode. One thing I definitely wanted to bring up is we have two really warring factions here, right? We have the Seven and we have the boys. And I think there's an interesting parallel between the two factions where we sort of see how the leaders are losing their control and their grip on their team. Homelander is going further and further off the deep end. He's becoming more and more Trumpian. He is so deplorable and despicable with seemingly no path towards any sort of back to center or goodness possible. And then you have Butcher, whose drive for vengeance and his desire to protect his late wife's kid is so strong that similarly, he is just leaving a wake of bodies, both literal and metaphorical, in his path. And the parallel between these two characters that this season is building, you come back to that scene where they're sitting in Butcher's kitchen and they're like, listen, fuck this red tape. We just want it to be the old school way. Well, that's sort of where this episode brings us, because the red tape that Homelander is facing is Stan Edgar, right? Stan Edgar is cool and steely and he's in control. He's the CEO of Vought. Well, Homelander found his way around Stan Edgar. He somehow got to Victoria Newman, aka Nadia, to screw over her father figure. And in her press conference, where I certainly thought she was going to speak against Homelander, she speaks out against Stan Edgar. Edgar's removed as CEO, and now Homelander's the king of the castle.
I think that there had to be something going on where Homelander threatened Zoe, her kid, because that makes a lot of sense later on in the episode. And you see, I don't think Newman or Nadia, whatever, like, I don't think Newman is a bad person. I think she's somebody with powers who has gotten caught up in a big, big game, and she has to play her cards correctly because she's got a family and people she cares about. And the unfortunate truth is, when you're mixed up in something like that, you have to play rough, kind of like what we're seeing Starlight have to do. She has to keep her head down and put her hand behind her back and clench it and put up with the bullshit Homelander's doing so that she doesn't end up like, other people who have died, which is a very important thing that I'm saying right now, especially as we talk about the episode.
Yeah, I don't even know if it was as much as Homelander threatened her kid, but certainly there was an exchange because Homelander brings her compound V, and not just temporary V, like an original. He even makes some sort of joke to like all the original herbs and spices. And she injects her daughter towards the end of the episode to make her daughter a soup. And there's this undercurrent too that's going on that I think can be tied back to Stormfront and Nazism and the notion of the superior race, right? For Hitler, which was the Aryan nation. But here we see Homelander sort of becoming this Hitler-esque figure of the superheroes, anyone with superpowers, and they're saying they're the superior race. So he says something to Newman akin to, I'm glad you decided to stay with your people on your side. And that's scary. He's sort of galvanizing all these different soups out there.
Hmm.
Not to mention the, like we saw the mediocre white men he's galvanizing to fight his battles, and Homelander is just becoming increasingly unhinged and increasingly powerful, not in terms of his abilities, but in terms of the power he wields in this world.
It's, to say the least, it's very terrifying. It's for, as somebody who is absolutely kind of terrified of real life figures pulling this kind of stunt or these kinds of things, which to my better knowledge, they have and haven't. I don't know. But like it, it's it's so real and we're able to show it, and it's like chilling. It's chilling to see this super powered superhero who is supposed to be the good guy going unhinged rapidly in front of the world, and nobody bats an eyelash, really. The people who do can't say anything. They're forced to stand down. And, oh, it gives me the chills just thinking about it. What did you think, Robert? I mean, a
I
lot
want to
happened
know.
in just the first half.
I want to know, like, the writing for specifically the character of Homelander, because every episode he's going just a little further and further nutsos, and like every episode ends where I'm thinking that the next episode is where he's just gonna go full blown crazy, like super villain, destroy the world, but he's not. I expect that he's going to do something like that at some point, but he's not doing it in the next episode. And kudos to the writers, because they keep building him up. They keep making you think, I don't know what else he could do besides just start destroying shit. Like they build like little layers to his character, even though we as the audience already know like how insane he is, what he's capable of doing. And it's just so weird like how they build that character.
I
I think it's one of the best written characters I've seen in a long time in a TV show.
I completely agree. One, like I make all these notes, and one of the things I kept writing is what they're doing, particularly with Homelander. It's sort of like, how like when you have like a coil and you have thread on the coil and you're spinning it and it just gets tighter and tighter and tighter and more tightly wound. At a certain point, you can't go any tighter, and that thread has to unspool and go everywhere. So
Hmm.
from a narrative standpoint, all I keep thinking is, how far can they push this before it goes too far? And Robert, I know you in our last episode talked a lot about your familiarity with the comic books. I'm going to spoil something here from the comic book. So to our viewers, if you're trying to separate out the comics, you don't want this, you can tune out now. But Homelander does die in the comic books, right? And so it feels to me like whether this season or next, because they haven't officially announced a season 4. Yay.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah,
No, they
had
have. I
all.
said they have.
Oh,
Oh.
we thought you said that they hadn't.
No, I said they have officially announced a season 4. EA. Homelander has to die, right? And new threats have to be introduced if they want to sustain this show long term,
Mhm.
because
I don't
they
know how you're
keep
gonna
writing
do that.
themselves into these corners and they keep finding ways out. But at a certain point, I don't know if they're going to be able to find their way out. So if you guys don't mind, I'd like to put on my theory cap for a second.
I mean, go for your theory cap. Just remember, we still have some of the episode to cover too.
Well, this is going to tie in some of the episode. Okay, so the big climactic scene, they're in Russia. The boys are in Russia. Kamiko did the hit. They break into this facility. Butcher takes another dose of Compound V, the temporary kind. We had seen a scene earlier where Huey caught onto it and asked for a dose, and Butcher told him no. We find out a little later that Huey nicked a dose, which is
And
interesting
it's
because
hysterical.
it's very funny.
He's like,
Well, there's a line that Butcher says to Huey when Huey's asking him for it, and he says, "It's not power, it's punishment. You don't deserve any of it." And that's really fascinating because I think one of the other narrative threads we're seeing this season is the loss of innocence of Huey. I mean, that really started way back in season 1, but I think this season we're really finally getting into the nitty-gritty of it. So anyways, Butcher and Huey are both souped up, and they go on this incredible action scene. Butcher has this epic slow-mo shot, and then he says, and I'm going to use that word again, but if you watch The Boys, you can handle it. He goes, "Evening, cunts." And maybe the most badass use of that word I've seen in something in a long time. So there's this incredible action scene. Again, with the violence, one of Huey's powers is super speed, and he goes so fast his clothes fall off. So we get to see Jack Quaid butt, and he, much like his sister died, he runs through someone. It's a whole mess of violence and gore.
It wasn't his sister, his girlfriend.
His girlfriend, yeah, sorry. Excuse me.
No, it's great.
Yeah, this scene is awesome. I'm sure, Robert, you love this scene because I know you really go for the gore and the violence and the action.
Yeah, I love everything that they did with that. Just that's probably the things that I like about this show is they build up like the story around the set pieces, and I love that the set pieces come without like any real warning. I had no idea what to expect when Kimiko was going to kill a bunch of dudes with dildos. Like I thought this was some undercover thing, and then all of a sudden people are getting bludgeoned to death with dildos like all over the place.
When she cracks, or like somebody cracks one of them because it was glass, and she just shakes the dude with it. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about violence, we cannot forget that when they're in this compound, they find a hamster that's on Compound V who somehow escapes and sort of teams up with the boys because the hamster's so mad at the guards. The hamster kills one of the guards, and that's gruesome and violent too.
The hamster, the hamster was so cute, and Maxwell's like, "That's a gerbil," and I'm like, "No, that's a hamster." And then they're like, "That's a hamster." And I was like, "Ah."
Frenchie thought it was a gerbil too. Frenchie thought it was a gerbil too.
It was really cute.
TV, Jack, wave of the future.
And then the hamster's just walking around, and then doink, 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 doink. I'm like, oh my gosh, the hamster's a pinball.
So, anyways, this amazing climactic epic action scenes ends. They come up to this tank, they open the tank, and the reveal we've all known is coming.
The Winter Soldier.
Soldier Boy is still alive, frozen basically in ice. He's the Winter Soldier.
The Winter Soldier Boy.
He's confused. He doesn't know where he is. He emits all this power out of his chest, which hits Kimiko. And Kimiko, who normally is impervious to bullets and this sort of thing, she's bleeding out. And the episode leaves us not knowing what's happening with Kimiko. But I'm going to tie this back in out of my theory corner. We saw here that Soldier Boy can harm Soups, who up until now we thought were impervious to this sort of violence and pain. So I can't help but wonder if this mysterious weapon that we're being told about that can kill Homelander is just Soldier Boy. And Soldier Boy is going to sort of be on the run now, confused, and he's going to end up teaming up with the boys, much to Mother's Milk's dismay, and Maeve, and everyone else who's sick of Homelander. And this season is building towards some sort of epic fight between the two, with Soldier Boy winning and then maybe becoming our antagonist for future seasons. I could be very wrong, but that's immediately where my head went.
Well, I mean, because if you think about it, as we were discussing earlier, because I had a thought on Homelander, but I also realized that what you're saying is incredibly accurate. Like, he's been just chilling until you push the right buttons. And then he does something big, and then he goes back to comfort. And he goes back to what he knows, and he goes back to his happy life where he's in control. But you take away that control, and like that's literally what this is going to be. They're going to come for him. And they have to use Soldier Boy because it seems like he can render a Soup powerless. So if he can remove powers from Soups, or even enough time for them to sustain some sort of injury and not be able to recover if that's part of their powers, then that's dangerous. That means that Soldier Boy has exactly what they need to stop the perfect superhero, which is Homelander. He was completely engineered for this. Mm-hmm. So it would make sense that this is just gonna, like, completely fuck him up. And then we have to deal with the ramifications of using this super weapon afterwards. Because what do you use to stop a superhero who can't be stopped? And that's what we had with Homelander before. But now we have something that can stop him. What do
Oh,
you
I
what?
know, I know. It's Soldier Boy doing the rap from Rapture. That's the ultimate weapon. That was so good.
Well, if the ultimate weapon is just another superhero, then how do you stop that other superhero if
That's
that other
exactly what I'm
superhero
saying. Like, what do you do?
And now we found how
Also,
the show is going to keep going for on and on and on and on.
possible?
also, we saw something very, very important. Because like I don't want to gloss over this. Another bit of Homelander's reach. Homelander tortures everybody in the Seven. Everybody. He has treated A Train like shit. He made the Deep eat one of his friends. Literally stick
Oh,
his friend in his mouth and eat him. And ink. Um, he literally he is forcing Starlight into a fake relationship, making out with her on TV. And because Starlight and Alex, her friend, who was actually I don't even remember what his name was because he
Supersonic.
supersonic, yeah.
Supersonic, the one that was Drummer Boy before. I remember Drummer Boy. Does that count?
Listen,
Um, I didn't remember Supersonic because Supersonic died in this episode because he
spoiler
decided to
alert.
get it. This is a spoiler review.
Oh,
Uh, but you play games and you win prizes. And as much as I wanted to see them win, I am not even surprised that this kid met his end in this episode. And it
yeah.
was really creepy the way that it happened because they're getting in the car. It's him and Starlight, or Homelander and Starlight, and he's like, "I want to fly." And she's like, "We can just get in the car. It's fine. We just get in the car." And he's like, "I want to fly." And she's like, "What is he doing?" And he flies her to a rooftop, sets her down, and she's like, "Why are we here?" And then he motions over, and there he is dead. There is her friend. And then he says, A Train told me everything. After A Train had been like, "Yeah, yeah, what do we do?" So you can't trust anybody. You can't
Yeah.
trust A Train. You can't trust the Deep. You can trust Maeve because she's in on this. You can trust Starlight. That's it. And you can trust the boys. But
I had a feeling that was going to happen because they just keep talking to everyone. I was like, sooner or later, someone's going to double cross all y'all
Yeah.
and tell
mhm.
Homelander. That's exactly what
Well,
happened.
well, and it's
All of these,
because we have seen that A Train wants out,
Hmm.
but doesn't want out. He wants to keep the fame. So does the Deep. They are absolutely 100% consumed with sticking in the boy, or not sticking in the boy, sticking in the Seven, and keeping the fame because they're not only superheroes, they're superstars because of it.
right.
And if they step back, guess what? You lose your fame. You go back to nothingness. You go back to all of that. And that doesn't mean that your powers are gone, or even worse, that you're off Homelander's plate. That man still can come after you because you know so many secrets. So once you're in the Seven, you should probably believe that you're in the Seven for life, regardless of what anybody thinks.
Right.
And life or death, as the case may be for poor Supersonic. Um, but because of that, now he threatens Huey's life and he says, "I'm not going to touch him if you play along." And so, yeah.
Homelander
Oops.
is just a bastard, isn't he? Ugh.
He's such he's such a terrifying character. He's so well written. Uh, Anthony Starr is just magnanimous in the role. He terrifies me to my core, and it is rare that I have ever been able to say that about somebody on a screen.
Yeah, he's legitimately scary.
Like oh yeah, like he legitimately calls back to every crazy psychotic thing that happens in this world, and you're just like, that could never happen to me. This is just a movie. And then yeah, and then Unsolved Mysteries happens, and everybody's dead. Um, and there you go.
There's only
Now
one other
it's oh no, go
only
ahead.
one
Sorry.
one other sequence I want to bring up before we can give our final thoughts and get out of here so we don't go on too long. You mentioned A Train and you mentioned his desire for fame. One of the things we saw in the last episode was him sort of rebranding himself and chasing a new avenue and trying to reconnect himself with the African American community. So we see here him making a commercial for his energy drink that I thought was very, very clearly inspired by Kendall Jenner's hugely misguided and much maligned Pepsi ad, where he's literally, A-Train is stopping what seems like Black Lives Matters protesters, and the police gives him a sip of his drink, and yay, all is well. And this is the sort of bullshit fake activism we see so many celebrities engage in, so they can sort of make a stand, but also in the case of this commercial, really play both sides, right? And it's just another example of how this show, even with all of its awesome action and violence and superhero shit, doesn't shy away from the satire and having very, very pointed targets. Like, I highly doubt Kendall Jenner, of all people, watches this show, but you have to imagine someone in her family or on her team has seen it and been like, oh, they came for you, Kendall. They came for you on The Boys.
I guarantee seen that. She's seen that clip.
Maybe by
and
this
the
point.
thing is, like, even if it is absolutely true or even not, like, it still brings back to it. And there are a lot of different references that it could be to, but I would love it if it was them digging on Kendall Jenner. That would be pretty funny. It's
fun.
just, they're very tongue in cheek. They're very creative in the ways that they tell the story and in the lengths that they will go to properly tell said story. Like, they do not shy away from any of it, and it's absolutely amazing and also ridiculously terrifying because people watch this shit.
Yes.
And when people watch shit, they can get ideas, and that's the scariest part about anything. But that being said, Robert, give us your thoughts, my friend.
I like this episode. It does kind of seem like it was a bit of a filler episode. Like a lot of the more of the action stuff was towards the end, minus the dildo battle. But I'm kind of curious as to what else Maeve has set up, because we did get a bit with Maeve in this where she reveals to Starlight that she's actually been training this whole time and making everyone think that she's like a raging alcoholic and just out of shape and stuff, when she's actually still secretly been training and preparing to take out Homelander. I want to see what she's doing, because she still is a potential threat that exists.
And it definitely sounded like she thinks she's going to her death.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm eager to see where it continues with her in that storyline. Again, kind of like what I was saying, I don't know what Homelander is going to be able to do from episode to episode. Now we pretty much have him in charge of Vought for the most part, and he also, I guess, has like this partnership with Victoria Newman. I'm kind of curious to see where this goes, how this is going to handle. And I know we're also probably going to get a lot more from Soldier Boy in this next episode as well. So
yeah,
I think, again, this was kind of like a stepping stone episode to get to what I believe is going to be the next episode. Will be a lot bigger, a lot more twists and turns and action in it.
Absolutely. Maxwell?
Yeah, you said it felt like a filler episode. I don't know if I would call it that. I would call it more so a table setting episode. I mean, these seasons are only 8 episodes, so by episode 4, you're already halfway through. And I think this was really just positioning all of our different players in this game as to where they're going to be heading towards in the back half of the season as we build up to the climax. So I agree with everything else you said. It's going to be really interesting to see how this all unfolds, how Newman comes into play. Soldier Boy, I think, is certainly, we're going to have the most time we've had with him yet in an episode next week. So it's going to be interesting to see what Jensen Ackles can bring to it, who's already been quite good in his limited screen time. But I think he's finally going to get some good stuff to dig into, play a fish out of water. Could be very much like, Captain America in the Avengers and the Winter Soldier, where he's like, where am I? What's going on? What year it is? What's the popular? All that sort of stuff. So yeah, another really strong episode that hits on everything I like about the show, particularly the satire and the political commentary. And then for me, the action is great and I love the violence and stuff, but what continues hooking me on this show is the more interesting writing aspects of it, and how they are not afraid to just be like, listen, we're calling this person out for this shit, and even though we're not directly saying it's this person, you can figure it out, kids.
I am super excited because episode 6 is Herogasm, and if anybody who's read the comics knows, that is a giant VOT sponsored orgy. So, okay. Okay.
Be
I'm really
prepared.
honestly, I've loved this show since the moment A Train ran through Huey's girlfriend. I was like, what is happening? It's absolutely amazing. It calls back to really great moments in, MCU and the DCU and other movies related and not related. But it does it in such a way that makes it it makes it more intellectual because we all know that those of us who love the MCU know that it started off as a lot of schlock. And DC, a lot of that is very schlocky and
Still schlocky.
yeah, it's still schlocky. Um, I want to say that Peacemaker was probably the most intelligent thing that they've done recently, and Birds of Prey.
The Batman was pretty darn good too.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about DCEU. It's like the Batman was delicious. But I mean Robert Pattinson always is. But what I'm saying is like it's very, very hard to imagine a truly intelligent vehicle housing superheroes. Like one that really understands itself, isn't afraid to take risks because like if they did this in the MCU, they would alienate so many people. It's a lot different to cause Mr. Fantastic to be spaghetti. Like that that wasn't I mean
The
his brain did pop though. But I mean it's like it's still not as
spaghetti.
gory. Like
Well,
this
the
this
other
season
TV
started
show.
with a man blowing up a dude from his dick. Like, it's like there is no comparison. I could sit here and compare it to Multiverse of Madness all day, and there's no comparison.
I
So
think the only other like even close point of comparison would be the HBO Watchmen series.
I would say that that was relatively close. Peacemaker was along those lines too. They were both relatively intelligent, but they still didn't take the risks that the boys do. And I think honestly, the reason why they can do that is because of the boys. The boys was able to put all of this on the table and say, this is what this should be, guys. And they were able to follow and see that people are still going to love it. Um, I think it's absolutely amazing. I cannot wait to see what's gonna happen with the Winter Soldier boy. Um, I'm calling him that for the rest of time now.
Makes sense.
I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see what's going to happen to Homelander. I can't wait to see Stan Edgar get his revenge because he made it out of this episode alive. He walked out and slammed down his drink and walked away. And he's a season regular. He may still be very, very involved. And I want to see what side Vicky Newman is on. I want to see Huey lose that innocence because it's just fun. Actually, he didn't even lose his innocence when he was high on Mini V. He was just like, ha 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 ha, ha, and like
And
doing
then
silly
notice
things out the window. I'm like,
his arm grew back together.
I loved it. It's a great show. It's so inspired. It's so fun, and I shouldn't watch it on days when I get vaccine shots. Yeah. Um, Robert, go ahead and tell us anything that you got cooking right now with Chris over at the Cinefanatics.
You can find us at Cinefanatics, youtube.com/Cinefanatics. This weekend, we are doing our tier ranking show, The Marquee. We are tier ranking all of the Pixar movies, all of them. All Pixar, except for Planes.
Wow.
Screw that movie.
Planes isn't even a Pixar movie.
Yeah, I
It's
don't know
Disney
if that was
Animation
Pixar or
Group.
not, whatever. Anyways, we're going to be doing that over there. That's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you come join us on Saturday for that one. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Cinefanatics MLP so you can get the time, dates, and everything, all the lowdown on that. And then follow me personally at Robert Adams MLP on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd.
Yes. Oh, sorry. I wasn't shaking my head no at all. I would never. How dare!
Also, check out the deconstructed trailer of Black Adam. That was
It's
fun.
real fun. Just dropped a couple days ago. It's so cool. And then, of course, I'm Amber. That's Maxwell. He's the M. I'm the Burr. You can find us online at Ember Products, Produx, on Twitter, Instagram, I think, and basically social media. And then I'm Takara Kanashi. He's Cinemaxwell or Cinemaxwell Inc. on Instagram. I mean, you guys should know. You can also find all of our deets down in the description of this video. So like, subscribe, hit the bell, uh, share our tweets because it really, really helps us. And definitely comment. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you think we should cover. Tell us how you think we're doing. Okay. I hope you guys have a great day. We'll see you again, definitely a couple times in the next week because we got some Obi-Wan, we got some Miss Marvel coming. It's gonna be a good week, guys.